All right, and now on to our main event. We're super excited to talk about this topic with the Burbank Card Show. We have Executive Director EJ Ferrer on the show. EJ, you can find him on social media, of course, through the Burbank Card Show on Instagram and also at dynasty.ej. EJ has a fantastic quote right on the Burbank Card Show webpage that our goal is to simply provide the best trading card show experience. And if that doesn't get you excited as a hobby enthusiast, then I don't know what will. EJ, welcome onto the show.
Chad, thank you so much for having me. Excited to kind of share everything that comes to play with the Burbank Card Show as well as myself. So definitely excited. Thank you, viewers and listeners who are listening and watching. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Yeah, of course. And before we get into all the details associated with the upcoming Burbank Card Show that's here at the end of August, rolling into the beginning of September, EJ, in your executive director role, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and perhaps how you got into this role?
So it's a funny story. So before I was doing the Burbank Card Show, I actually was a dealer myself. I was a dealer, still technically. I'm still buying cards. Right now, I'm a big wrestling fan, so the wrestling bug has gotten me. But as far as how I got started, it was just doing small shows, right, as a dealer. And the one thing that I like to say with dealing is you're only as good as your last deal, right? So every deal that I have made, I wanted to make sure that at the very least I've made an impression. So if you, Chad, you and I did a deal, I wanted to make sure, even if the deal didn't happen, I wanted to make sure that you and I knew each other and it wouldn't be the end of our network, right? So as time progressed and years progressed, I started really networking as I was doing deals, right? So, and then I had two buddies of mine that I grew up with, and one of them I knew in college, and they were actually, one of them was a youth pastor at a church in Newport Beach, and they had asked me to help them run this card show. And this was it's crazy looking back, but it's about 3 years ago they had asked me, and I had never thought about ever running a show, right? So, and it was like a 50 table show, and I was so scared, man. I was just so scared of just reaching out to people and like, hey, can you come to my small show? It's in Newport Beach. And I don't know how it is in where you're at, but in California, it's a very competitive area, right? It's a very competitive area. And, by the way, shout out to all the card promoters out there, the card show promoters, right? So it was very competitive. And I had a guy who, he no longer does shows, but he knew my other sub company for cards, which was Dynasty Mode. But he didn't know EJ. So basically when people started to say, hey, are you coming to the Newport show? EJ's running it. He's like, well, I know Dynasty Mode, but I don't know EJ. And he was running the same show the same weekend. And at the time, I didn't really think it was a big deal because he's in like West Side LA, like the Valley area. And I was in like Orange County, like Newport Beach. So I'm thinking it's like 1.5, 2 hour drive. But, again, I'm ignorance to myself. I had no idea the whole politics behind the industry. And, we'll get into that too, right?
Sure.
And sure enough, man, like that just bothered me. And I'm the type of guy where if you tell me I can't do anything, I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen. So going back to the dealers that I networked with, and a lot of these guys were guys that I've done constant deals with, and these guys were in the LA area. So I had called them and I said, look, would you do my show? And I was so scared, Chad, to ask for, I think it was like $60 a table. And I was so scared. I was like, yo, can you do $60 a table? And the one thing I wrote in my notebook was two things. Number one, I'm not going to give anyone a discount. I want to make sure that the people that pay the $60 are the people that want to not only support me, but also understand that, hey, EJ's ability to run a local card show is valid and not just to do EJ a favor, right? And then I had another card shop who got mad because they said that they do like local shows as well every Saturdays. And basically, for lack of a better term, they basically stated they own Saturdays and why not do Sunday? And I'm just like, dude, like I'm going to do whatever I want. Like, and, going back to me being scared about 50 tables, we ended up having 120 tables that first show. And sure enough, it became something of like a nuance. And as you know, with card shows, they're a bit older, like they're a little bit, they're not as structured well. And, with us, we had AC, we had food, we had music on the background. It was very lively. And then also I knew all the dealers, right? So I knew what they were bringing. I knew what their specialties were. So I had made it to where sports cards were these guys. You had TCG on this guy, yeah, on this side. You had wax on this side. You had this. So it was very uniform in a sense to where if you knew, like if you were a TCG dealer, then you would be on the TCG area, right? So it wasn't a mix. And the thing is, Newport Beach is South Orange County, so you're getting the affluence of folks that don't usually come to shows, right? So there's no shows in South Orange County, so folks from Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, like that area started to come to that show. So of course, the success of that show kind of mirrored on to my name in the local ranks. And at the time, Rob Veras and Burbank Sports Cards, I didn't know Rob, and my iteration of Rob is whatever's on Instagram, right?
Sure.
And I knew Ryan, I knew all those guys that were the younger guys, but I didn't know Rob. And to my knowledge, the story goes is that my other partner Jay and Rob were talking about doing a local show, and this is late 2021, and they were bringing up doing a show at the Elk Lounge every month. And I'm just in my head, I'm just like, we don't have anything in Southern California, right? That
Right.
is even Dallas. And Rob has always had this vision of having something here in Southern California, right? And long story short, I tell Rob, I'm like, look, why don't we do this, right? And my business partner, Jay, is the one that put me on, right? Because they're a bit older, right? So, outside of the card space and outside of the actual running the shows, I deal with strictly the marketing and the partnerships and making sure all the sponsors are secured, the branding and everything. That's pretty much my job title. So Jay had told me, he's like, EJ, would you consider being a part of this project? Now, mind you, there's no blueprint of the show. So Rob goes, okay, well, let me see it. Let me see something, right? So for those of you guys that have ever been to Burbank Sports Cards, you go straight on Burbank Boulevard, you turn right, there's a Walgreens there. And a 7-Eleven, and then there's it's a Vons. It's a Vons. And I literally sat there in my car, and I already had a pitch deck that was like a template pitch deck. And I basically made a pitch deck in chat. No joke. I literally just BS'd it and said, hey, 20,000 people's going to come. We're going to have PSA. We're going to have Beckett. We're going to have eBay. We're going to have Nike. We're going to have all these guys, right? I'm just BSing the mess out of this. And literally on the last end was the formula of a card show. And it basically said AC plus Wi-Fi plus awesome dealers plus awesome food plus space equals good card show. That was basically it. And Rob looked at me, and this is probably more Rob showing his flaw in the negotiation side. And he was like, you know what? I'm in. And mind you, we had thought that it was just kind of a more, again, my hopes was for it to become what it is today, right? But we had thought that it would take maybe 5-10 years to get to that point. This was something that we did not, again, I was still doing my web development business at the time. So it wasn't something that I never would have in my wildest dreams imagined ever leaving that and doing this full time, right? And literally after 4 months, we realized, holy smokes, this is going to be a lot bigger than it is. And that's when I decided to kind of take that next step and be full time in the industry. So it's about a year. It's about a year and a half, and it's been an awesome experience. I mean, our first show was, it was something out of a fairy tale. Most card promoters are like, yeah, man, I expected that to be good. This and that, man. Honestly, like, I didn't know what to expect on the first show, and that was a huge success. The second show was great.
Well, hold on, let's pause there. So that first show was in 2022, correct?
Yes.
So just a year ago. And
yes.
If I see correctly, I didn't attend that show, but if I see from the website, it looks like you had roughly 15,000 square feet and 250 tables.
Oh, geez. Yes.
So that's still a large show in itself.
Right.
It really is. I mean, especially when not too long before that, you were calling people asking $60 for a table, and
Right.
that's quite the explosion, and really a testament to showing, sometimes you just got to have your information and give it a try and find out what happens.
Right.
And then it blossoms. So you've got that first show, which is already large. You hit on so many things over the last couple of minutes that I want to chat about, but continue on. Just, I want to paint a picture for what that first show looked like, because I know the numbers that at least I've seen on your website for the upcoming show are pretty darn impressive too.
Yeah. And again, I'm a big numbers guy, man. So I look at everything numbers, anywhere from our sponsors, anywhere from, folks that are our media partners, all that. I look at everything numbers, and that's not to be disrespectful towards anyone, but for us, again, we have a brand to uphold. That's number one, but we also have a business that we're really trying to reach. And I take that very seriously as pretty much the leader of the show. Is I have to make sure that the right partners are involved in that, right? And that also includes our convention partners. So going back to the first show, we were at 15,000 square feet. So to paint a picture, Chad, the size of that is pretty much near what our current trade night space is for Anaheim, is right around 12,000 square feet. So even then we knew, even though the Marriott was doing all they can, and big shout out to the Marriott, man, and an incredible partner of ours. They're a partner of ours with room blocks for the Anaheim show. They were really trying to keep us in Burbank. They were really, really trying to keep us in Burbank. And again, we're the Burbank Card show. So, the second show, it being in Ontario, which for those of you guys that do not live in Southern California, Ontario, for lack of a better term, is like in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's about an hour plus drive from Burbank. So again, our Burbank audience is LA, right? This is in like a different city, a different location. But sure enough, man, folks came, and very grateful for that. I mean, of course, Super Bowl weekend, and that wasn't our decision, right? So we wanted to make sure that we were very appreciative of those that came. And Anaheim was something that kind of, so backtrack, sorry. Ontario was right around 80,000 square feet. The full length of Ontario is 140 or 150,000 square feet. So we signed up on Ontario for about 2 years. So we'll have that whole space of 150,000 square feet, and that will be for Q1 for the next 2 years. And then Q3 is our big show, which is Anaheim.
I see.
Anaheim is 220 plus thousand square feet of real estate.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that Ontario show is still going to take place in the first quarter of 2024.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Now, there is something here that I think we should bring up as we transition from that Ontario show to now talking about this Anaheim show. And that is that on your Instagram page, you said that there were 3 kind of key factors that you wanted to solve that didn't go perfect in Ontario that you wanted to look at for Anaheim: admission lines, will call system, and then your POS system. So can you talk a little bit, maybe for the people who are in Ontario and experience this, talk about some of those problems and how they can expect to see some improvement for this upcoming show?
So again, I'm a numbers guy, and Ontario, the 2 factors that we didn't have was a POS system that could actually be catered to a card show, right? So we decided to partner with a company called ShowClicks, which is a partner of the Anime Expo, the New York Comic Con, and basically what they provide on the ticketing standpoint is they have a QR code, and basically a QR code system. When you buy a ticket, you get a QR code. And the way I look at things is our last 2 processes per customer would take about 30 seconds to a minute. With the QR code, it would take roughly 5 to 10 seconds to scan someone in, verify them in, and then get them the credentials, and then they could just come in. So it basically speeds up the process, I'd say 3-4x right there, right? And then for our dealers, we're going to have a systematic approach. It's somewhat the same with the QR code, but at the same time, now we're going to have 2 days of registration instead of 4 hours. So this time we'll have the Wednesday registration open at a very limited schedule, but at the same time, it's still a schedule it's still technically an extra day, which is technically for our corporate, right? So folks that are going to be in Anaheim on Wednesday, they could come in. Registration booth will be open Wednesday, as well as Thursday at I believe 9 a.m. and we'll have groups this time around. Last time we just literally had a free for all where people could pick up their badges, and then we also beefed up our staff. We 2x'd our staff on the will call side, and then of course with the POS system, they're now separate. So whereas with our first show we were just having one POS system, this time around we have two separate systems with the company ShowClicks as our partner on the ticketing, and then we have our partners at Expo Genie that is strictly the vendors. And then the only folks that we deal directly on a financial standpoint are our sponsors. So it basically gives you three tiers of system that allows our business to flow. I'm a business junkie, so I like to audit things. I like to look at how can we work better, and I also like to listen to folks that are smarter than me, right? So that we can integrate better systems. And I think that our team has done an incredible job of pivoting that, because like every small business, I like to always mention like, hey, we're a startup, we're a small business. Even though Burbank Sports Cards is established as a business, as a legacy brand, Burbank Card Show is still a small business, right? So we're still a startup, so we're still learning. You know, even our website, we put a lot of not only financial, but a lot of time into getting that going. So, you know, we're really, really excited to integrate those new systems for Anaheim.
Well, I certainly think that I've always been an advocate for innovation and trying things, especially if you see that there's a need. And I think the timing of this for a lot of people in the hobby world, and of course, we don't want to necessarily compare this show to National, but the timing of it is right off the heels of National. And,
Right.
you know, a lot of people who attended that show saw some areas for improvement and
Right.
saw those same areas of improvement several years ago and 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and they don't necessarily see those changes each year. And so, at least from my standpoint, I can always appreciate when we see that there's opportunity for improvement and you take a chance and see if something works. So
Right.
I don't think you're going to get many people who are going to argue about that. Now, with that being said, this upcoming show space is at the Anaheim Expo Center, which is just right across the street from Disneyland, correct?
Literally across the street, you're at Disney California Adventure. And in our trade night on the second floor, when you walk in, there's an outside area, and that wasn't accidental. We made sure that it was on the outside, so there's some breathing room space, if you know what I mean. But when you get onto that I don't want to say little, that big patio area, you'll see Disney California Adventure, and then if you time it right, you'll be able to see the fireworks while you're trading cards. So,
oh my gosh, this sounds like my personal
it's literally a block away. A lot of the fat checkers tried to check us on that and tried to say, no, Disneyland is a mile away. I'm like, dude, you could literally see Disneyland. You could literally see the people getting rides. You could see the workers checking out, clocking out. It's definitely literally a walk away.
Yeah, no, I can certainly attest to that. Disneyland is like my second home, and so applause to you for setting that up. Now let's talk logistics about this show. I want to just kind of give people a run through of what they can expect. So walk us through maybe show space. You hinted earlier about having a floor plan set up in a certain way with some of the previous shows you set up. So I'm really curious if we'll be seeing that type of floor plan layout with certain sections at this card show.
Yeah. So first off, going back to innovation, we've partnered with a company called Gem 10, and Gem 10 is actually creating an interactive map for us that our guests will be able to utilize. Basically, when you get your badge or if you get the QR code on any sort of banner that we may have, you could download the interactive map and you could have it on your phone, and you could literally see where everyone's at. Every dealer, every corporate company, every grading company, et cetera, right? So, and then you could hot link it to where, you know, if you're looking for someone, especially you could literally see them by alphabetical order, and it's all as precise as possible. You could also see where Starbucks at. You could also see where, where the food is at, where the bars are at. So it's a very interactive experience that we're excited to launch. I think I could be wrong, but it's the first publicly launched interactive map in our industry. So we're really, really excited to collab with those guys, and they're great young guys. And going back to innovation, like what you said, Chad, this is something that's big. But going back to the logistics, shout out to Jay, our logistics director, and I call him Big Grump Jay. He's always grumpy, but he means well. But anyway, so first floor is going to be strictly our corporate area, where all the grading companies are going to be at, the auction houses. I don't want to shout them all out, but
there's an impressive list here on the
So,
website that people can go check out.
Yeah, so you could go check it out on the website and Instagram. But we're also introducing our TCG area, our non-sports TCG and collectibles area, which is going to be on the first floor. Everyone pretty much is beefing up their activations. That's probably our biggest thing. Is outside of a card show, we wanted to promote the experience side of the consumer. Maybe the folks that aren't necessarily card collectors, but they're sports card fans, or they're fans of Star Wars, or they're fans of Pokemon. I wanted to make sure that there was an experience for everybody. So, we're going to have different events. We're going to have different lounge areas. We're going to have different arcade areas for the folks. And I'm a big gamer, so I'm excited to just be a part of that, right? You'll probably see me there more than not. But on the second floor is strictly our sports card dealers. And that's something that me personally, I take a lot of pride in, especially Burbank Sports Cards. The Burbank Card Show is an extension of the Burbank Sports Cards brand. And one thing that we're known for is we buy. And Burbank Sports Cards will be there to buy. And then also on top of the sports card area on the second floor, we'll have some of the biggest dealers and the best dealers in the country as well as in the world. We're going to have folks from different parts of the world coming through. I think as far as Australia and the Philippines, last time I checked. But we're going to have a good amount of sports card dealers. So on the sports card side, we are just under 700 tables on the sports card side. And on the TCG side, we're just under, I believe, 100 around there. But then that doesn't include the booths. So if you include everything all around, that's about 1,000 plus tables and activations.
That's an incredible task to take on in setting all of that up. How do you feel about aisle space and just walkability of this with that many tables?
So again, our first show, we're not proud of this, but our first show, we had literally the smallest you could get without fire marshal getting mad at you. Our first show was at 6 feet. We are now proud to say that we've got to 10 feet of walk space, which is enough for two families to get through. And Chad, you're a Disneyland guy, so I know how important that is when you're walking through that.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're very, very cautious of that. Again, the city of Anaheim, I want to say this publicly, the city of Anaheim is nicely as well. We're very proud of our partnership with the city of Anaheim and the Anaheim Convention Center, but that doesn't mean they're the easiest to work with, and rightfully so, right? So, they're very strict when it comes to different things, especially on the logistical side. And these are things that we had to pivot on and learn really quickly, right? So, and we're very proud of that. And big credit to Jay, who's done an incredible job on the logistics side. I've said it publicly yesterday on a podcast that with what Jay has done I'd even say this confidently, with 10% of 10% of the budgets compared to a lot of other convention shows, what he has done with that budget has been nothing short of incredible. So really, really excited and proud to have him on our team. And I can't wait for folks to just experience that. Because that's something that goes is sometimes people miss that, right? And I get a lot of credit, and Rob gets a lot of credit for the show, and Jay doesn't get much of that because he's behind the scenes. But it's one of those things to where even I'm looking at this map, and I'm like, I really hope that this gets done. And there's no other person that I could have faith in than Jay to get it done. So,
well, it sounds like there's so much thought that's got into this, and not just from someone who puts on a show, but also someone who is a collector and has been there as a dealer, and also thinking about the logistics of those things, which I'm sure everyone can appreciate. Right. A few really fine points that sound silly that we have to ask this, but we've all been to a show that don't have these amenities, so we should ask. So some of these may be rapid fire, EJ. Do you have air conditioning?
Yes, we've had air conditioning at all my shows. Outside, even the smaller shows. I'm very ignorant. I've always felt that AC, when there's hundreds of people at your show, should be mandatory. But to some other shows, I guess it's not. We spent a ton of money, again, going back to the city of Anaheim. We've spent a ton of money. There was a guy that was trying to call us out the other day. And again, I'm all for criticism, guys. Like, I'm all for any sort of opinions, right? But he was so wrong on the numbers side, and he was trying to basically pocket watch us and basically say, hey, look, we sold this amount of tables. Like, I'll give you guys a little bit of a breakdown. Uh, Wi-Fi and AC alone was close to six figures for us at the show. So, and that was non-negotiable. We wanted to make sure that there was AC for folks, and there was also Wi-Fi and connection that, at the very least, folks could use so that they could make their deals, right? So, yeah, it's funny how you mentioned that, but yeah, no, definitely AC at the show.
Well, I will say thank you amongst everyone listening for for that sacrifice, especially on the financial standpoint. How about food and drink at the show?
Yeah, so we have a company called Airmark who we're partners with at the show. Airmark's basically a management company that provides, it's like a liaison company that provides food trucks, provides any sort of food and beverage servicing. So we'll have some food trucks at the show. But outside of the food trucks and the food and drinks and food and beverage, there's a ton of restaurants around the city of Anaheim at the convention center. Chad, you've been to Disneyland and Disney Walk, so you've seen there's a plethora of steakhouses. There's a plethora of different spots that you could go to. Our Sally, basically our financial head, she basically gave us a heads up of the restaurants. So myself and the team, we go out every night at the show. That's kind of our like little hoorah moment for the team. And of course, Rob picks up the tab on that, and Rob's a cheapskate, man. So Rob's looking at this. Rob's like, man, we could have went to In-N-Out, you know. So, but again, outside of what we will provide on site at the show, off site, there's just a ton of things, literally within walking distance. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Marriott, our host hotel, the Marriott Convention Center. They have 3 restaurants, incredible restaurants. I've tried it out myself. Look, guys, I'm not the healthiest person, so you could take my advice when it comes to food. The food is incredible. There's a Starbucks there. So we have everything. And again, that's the biggest thing for me, especially running shows, is we wanted to make sure that there was within walking distance of space of different things. So we're very excited to provide that for our guests.
Well, speaking of the Marriott, the Starbucks is essential. What type of floor space do they have at their main hotel lobby? Things got a little crazy with trade nights at national hotel lobbies.
Yeah, we're very that was the biggest thing when that whole thing happened at Lowe's, I believe, at the National. I think we went ahead and sent our Marriott rep an email and just let them know, like, hey, just a quick heads up. Again, legally speaking here, I'm not a lawyer, but none of those trade nights are official Burbank Card Show or EJ sanctioned trade nights. So again, we cannot control anything, but big shout out to the Marriott. They've been nothing but great to us. And I'm sure that, again, there's enough space, right? But at the same time, if it does get crazy, guys, it's already 2:00 in the morning, 3:00. It's time for you guys to go to bed. But some of these guys are card is life. I'm sure people have heard the phrase ball is life. I've seen folks do card is life. These guys have been on cards literally from dusk till dawn. And it's incredible to see, man.
Yeah, it is. And sorry, I kind of put you in a weird spot with that one, but I think you gave a very appropriate answer. I like that. You mentioned kind of pricing of things. The show itself, I just want to make sure we mention this: $20 a day to get in, 3 days for $50. And then there's a VIP pass, which gets you in an hour early for $150. So very affordable and very comparable to other shows there. Let's continue down this kind of awkward question, though. I didn't notice Panini as one of your sponsors. Your sponsor list is incredible. Did you guys pull a Fanatics and boot them out last minute?
No. So it's funny. It's funny how you mentioned that. We, again, outside of Burbank, I'll speak for myself here. I have a great relationship with the folks at Panini. The friends of mine. These are friends, right? Outside of business, these are friends, and Panini reps have came to our show. It's just outside of Burbank. I'll publicly say this. There was really no communication with Panini, even from our first show. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you guys, even more. There was no communication with any big company, even in our first show. It was tough. Like, I think our first show, we had maybe like 4 sponsors. Now we're about nearly 38 or 39, I think the last time I checked. So it's an incredible, it goes back to some of you guys that are doing your shows, and you guys have the goal of trying to be bigger, right? I mean, look, even with the Burbank brand, we struggled with getting company, because again, it costs money for some of these guys to come in. Panini is a perfect example, right? So if you guys been to the National or Mint Collective, Panini has these big booths. And guess what that costs? That costs money. And then they have to bring their staff, they have to pay hotels. And then, of course, they have to pay a sponsorship fee depending on what the deal is made on the respective shows. So, and that, especially for me, I understand that because I deal with the corporate sponsors, right? So, with that, some of these companies have corporate budgets. Some of these guys just don't feel that it's necessarily the right place for them. I can't speak for Panini on this. For me, I see it this way selfishly. I think that the Burbank Card Show is a can't-miss show. And I think that any company, even outside of the industry, could benefit from that. We have 3 companies that are sponsors that are not even sports cards or any sort of collectible company. These are companies that see a numerical number of attendance and could see a potential profit gain from it, whether in financial or in marketing. So, outside of my friends at Panini, shout out to my guy Tracy Hackler. But outside of that, we haven't really had any conversations with Panini. So I'll just throw it out there.
No, that's a fantastic answer. And I say that one partially in jest, but on kind of the same topic, but a more serious question. This show seems to be rapidly growing, at least in volume and the number of tables that you have over the last year and a half. And certainly I think everyone, particularly people on the West Coast, would love to see that continue. Is there any concern that Fanatics may also try and take over the card show world?
Right. And going back to the flip side of the whole Panini thing, I mean, Fanatics has been nothing great to us, both at the show and at the sports card side of it. Like, Fanatics to us is of course, they're taking over, right? For lack of a better term, they're taking over. And, I like to say that what they can do potentially for our industry could change things, right? You're talking about a $10 billion company, a $10 to $20 billion market cap that could potentially be $100 million in about 5 years. Like, that's the power of what Fanatics could potentially do on the marketing. You're looking at marketing budgets that will skyrocket any sort of marketing budget that we've ever seen in sports cards, right? So, but outside of are we worried about it? No, not necessarily. We consider Fanatics as a partner of ours. Outside of the show, they were sponsors of ours at the last show. At this show with Anaheim, we had decided, let's focus on Burbank and making this a Burbank show. But there's been talks as well, of Fanatics doing other shows, right? So look, we think that the market could sustain a show outside of the National. And I've always said that. Like, I've always said that there should be, if the National is the show, right, there should be another big show. And that was even before Burbank. So even for us to be considered the West Coast National, and I didn't say that, that's from folks giving us that moniker. We're very humbled of that, right? It goes back to what I said, and kind of my statement of that is we're just really just trying to provide the best card show experience, whether that's 10,000 square feet, whether that's 500,000 square feet. We want to make sure it's the best experience possible, right? Now with Fanatics, I do see them potentially getting into the experience side, right? So I think that's something that has not been capitalized just yet in our industry. So it's kind of interesting to see, but I will say this on a conversation standpoint, compared to any other company, Fanatics has been nothing good to us. So, they've been nothing but good, and they've even offered different help that they could provide for the show. We just declined it for this show, just because of the fact that we already have our core sponsors involved. So we wanted to make sure that we stay loyal to our core sponsors, and then, after, we'll see, maybe we'll figure it out in the future.
Sure. Well, 2 final questions for you, and then I'll kind of leave an open mic for you to promote anything you'd like. First of all, do you see this show in Anaheim happening again at the same time next year?
Yes, I could definitely see it. So right now, the biggest contention is the 2 floors, right? So, we're getting a lot of feedback on that, good or bad, right? So the feedback is that, may not be traffic on the first floor, maybe not be traffic on the second floor. I'm almost guaranteed this. The second floor will be insane, especially Saturday. It would be bonkers. You're talking about, I'm looking at our ticket sales right now, and I'm just like, I don't even know how to sustain Saturday. I'm just being really honest. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but we got to hire more people to at least help out on Saturday with the second floor. And then, of course, the first floor, we wanted to just make sure that it was somewhat separated. There was a situation in Ontario that I remember where there was a grading company that was just swamped, right? So their lines got to a point where it was kind of getting too close to the dealers. So folks couldn't walk in for the dealers. So that was kind of our solution, right? So again, trial and error. But definitely that for sure. The 2-floor situation is something that we want to make sure that we take advantage of. But then as far as where do we see that next year? I mean, who knows, man? I mean, we might get into the main floors of that A, B, and C that you guys see at Comic Cons. I believe the National did that in 2006. That was when I was 14. Fun fact, that was my first card show too. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so as a 14-year-old, if you told me that I was running the second biggest show in about 15 years, man, I'd probably lose it. So
it's so cool.
Yeah.
EJ, one last question for you. At the end of the day, what is going to make this upcoming show, successful?
I've always had one goal in mind when running card shows, is that as long as we bring the crowd and we bring the traffic, and you can't make everybody happy, right? And that's something that I always wanted to vocalize with our staff. I wanted to vocalize with our team, especially our core partners between myself, Rob, and Jay. And Rob understands this. Rob runs a card shop, right? And in my opinion, he runs the card shop. So,
right.
So for him to deal with customer service, I've seen that man literally, Anakin Skywalker it out, with different folks, and he earned that. I mean, dude, you're talking about 40 years of just pure experience, and then my other partner Jay, he's the hothead of all of us, but he really is very accommodating to folks, especially our sponsors. But our job is to promote. We're promoters, right? We're card show promoters. So as long as we do a good job with promoting. We finally have a marketing budget, thankfully. So we've taken care of any sort of local promotion, any sort of media promotion, and we're very proud to have our media partners involved for this one. So outside of that, man, our goal is to simply just promote the hell out of it and get as many people into the show. I can't really speak on the dealers. I can't really speak on this, but I will say one thing that we're very proud of and that we're known for is that it's a dealing show. There's a ton of deals at this show, and not just on a sense of high-end cards that a lot of people tend to gravitate us as a high-end show. We're very proud of the fact that there's low, mid-tier dealers that do well at our show, and these are guys that have maybe $500 and below cards, and we're very proud of that. So that's that one key goal, is to get as many people in there. And to we hear this all the time, let's all grow the hobby together. I mean, dude, look, if I could just get that one kid, it goes back to EJ as a 12-year-old. It goes back to that kid where it's like that one kid that used to read a Beckett magazine at Walgreens, and to turn that kid into one day being a part of this industry, whether as a collector, whether as a buyer, whether as a employee of a certain company. I mean, that's all that matters to me. So getting as many people there and getting that turnover rate up, that's all that matters to me.
I like that a lot. So a couple other things that I'll just throw in there that we didn't get to, and then I'm going to leave the floor open to you. So guys, I will encourage you to go check out the website, burbankcardshow.com. You can see the list of sponsors, which we've mentioned a couple of times. And the reason that I bring it up is that you will see grading companies. You see PSA, you see SGC. You will also see ComC and eBay. And so if you're someone who likes to visit these booths when you're at card shows, please go sure to check them out. And then you can go follow up with their corresponding social media sites to see what they may have to offer there. But a very impressive list, especially as it's grown over the last year and a half. I believe I saw, EJ, this will be a quick question for you. I believe I saw a couple of autograph opportunities there as well. Is that correct?
Yes. So big shout out to the Memorabilia Network. We're going to have a couple Dodger guys come through. I mean, Fernando Mania, if you guys are baseball fans, Fernando Mania is a huge get for us. James Outman, a rising young star for the Dodgers. We're very, very, very happy to accommodate to that. Memorabilia Network. Shout out to Harlan and then the guys, Dan. Again, full disclosure, we're a card show. We never really thought about autograph guests. I'm more on the side of autograph guests tend to kind of gravitate away from the dealers, right? The financial sense of it. But this was something that we felt was right with the brand. Again, my job as the director is to make sure it directs not only on a logistical aspect, but also on a financial and a marketing aspect. And it just made sense to collaborate with the Memorabilia Network because, again, it made sense. Now, if we had 50 to 100 autograph guests, that may not work with the Burbank brand. It works with the National, it works with other shows, but in the West Coast, we're a little different in the West Coast than at most shows, So that's something that we're very proud of is we try to stick to the card show focus and providing that for our guests. But who knows, man? Maybe we'll have an autograph partner that down the line that makes sense. And we've talked to many different providers as well, and we're not closing that door. It's a slippery slope, if you know what I mean. With garnishing the aspect of card shows and card dealers. So. Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess I see it as just a little something else that you've got at this show to enhance the experience if someone, wants to go meet Fernando. I think that's fantastic. So very good, EJ. Well, we could keep going here, but we're up on time. Anything you would like to promote, anything you'd like to reiterate now, EJ? The floor is yours.
I mean, look, guys, 4 years ago, COVID era, right? I told myself that, look, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old, right? Dropped out of college and told myself, look, before I turn 30, if I don't if I don't have any more success within this, I'm going to just find a job, and a regular day job. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the one biggest thing I could say is, man, just whether you're running a small show, whether you're at a small show, whether you're a small card dealer that only has maybe $1,000 in inventory. I mean, look, guys, I started with value cards, and at the height of it, man, I was touching $10,000-$20,000 cards, before I was doing the card shows. And then even on the card show side, I ran a 50 table show to now running 1,000 table show. It's insane. And even Chad had mentioned it. We had 4 sponsors, and now we're at, it looks like a good amount of people. So, guys, all I'm going to say this, man, is this hobby is incredible. This industry is awesome. It's my favorite time as far as this industry is concerned. And again, man, just very, very blessed. And like I said, man, for you guys that's tuning in, man, keep doing what you're doing. You never know how far you get. A lot could change in a year.
Fantastic. EJ, thanks for joining us again. People can find him at dynasty.ej and at Dynasty Mode. Please go check out the Burbank Card Show. EJ, thanks again.
Cool. Take care, guys.